welcome to the very first 2020 episode of Out of the Vault. And may I say, I am very excited to get this brand new season of Out of the Vault started because it's amazing to know that this is the 8th year that I have been doing this. So in case you are new to my channel, let me just say welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. And for all of you returning, I'm sure that you are all excited for another strong year of discussing Disney, Disney Pixar, and Studio Ghibli films, even though Disney doesn't own Studio Ghibli anymore. But that's another topic for another time. But in case you haven't noticed, whenever the new year rolls around, we always like to step aside from the usual stuff that we do here and take a look at another thing that Disney gave us in terms of animation or just full-on Disney magic in general. And today we're going to be taking a look at a movie that not that many people talk about, and not that many people really know how to talk about, but I definitely do because I saw this in theaters back in 2002. A little bit of a backstory before we get into the film. There was a point in time in the turn of the century when a lot of people felt that 2D animation was definitely not going to be the future, and basically Disney decided to take all of these sequel ideas for some of their great Disney classics and just make them direct-to-DVD films. But some of them actually were lucky enough to make it to the big screen. And this specific one, which is Return to Neverland, which is the sequel to the 1953 Disney animated classic Peter Pan, came to the big screen. And I, for one, was very excited about this movie coming out in theaters because, number one, even though now I was not really the biggest Peter Pan fan rewatching the 53 film when Out of the Vault just started, but the Peter Pan mythos is something that I've always held dear. I love the Mary Martin stage play, I love the Steven Spielberg 1991 film Hook, and I've always known that after the initial story of Peter Pan and Wendy, there were so many other adventures that Peter Pan and the Lost Boys and even the Darling Children went on. So this was Disney's chance to actually capture one of those stories told in Disney fashion, and it is the story that takes place well after Wendy has grown up, during wartime in the United Kingdom no less, and it's about her daughter Jane, who has basically decided that it's not a time to be a child because there's a war going on, my father's gone off to war, me and my little brother are going to be shipped off to the countryside to be safe from all the bombing. Why would anybody want to think about Peter Pan and the pirates and pixie dust? It's all nonsense. And it turns out that Jane has to eat her words because Captain Hook decides to invade London and take Jane, thinking that she's Wendy for the sake of finally defeating Peter Pan with having Wendy, in this case Jane, as leverage. And that's where our story pretty much is. So when I saw this movie in theaters, I actually had high expectations just because I was still very much in the true Disney high. I love Disney movies. I still do amidst all the controversy that the studio is going through and all the properties that they are inheriting, but this movie just excited me because I like the mythos, and when I left that theater, I was very surprised in a positive way because I was really impressed by how it really took on some major dark tones and still managed to hold true to that Disney magic. It is definitely an enjoyable film. It plays beautifully off of the film that came out decades before. Also, you have to give them props for getting actors like Blaine Weaver and the great Corey Burton to give us the voices of Peter Pan and Captain Hook. It sounds just like the original actors, but then again, when it comes to a voice actor like Corey Burton, who I personally know from the Bruce Timm universe voicing Brainiac, amongst other characters, I knew that he was going to give me something awesome. And I also really love the story. I like how they take a lot from the Peter Pan books, especially when they finally give us, we don't believe in fairies, and what happens to fairies when someone says that. It's something that actually wasn't featured in in the original animated film, so it was really nice to see that. And also the whole concept of using Jane, which was something that I specifically remember from the Broadway Peter Pan starring Mary Martin, that was also really nice to see. The story itself is also, like Peter Pan, not grand. It's a little bit more simpler, a little bit more child-friendly. Even some of the songs are very much in the vein of the original film, but there's just something about this movie that I think makes it a little bit better than the original. Maybe it's the animation, maybe it's the story, maybe it's the character development of Hook and Peter Pan, because I really loved that they didn't just make Hook a bumbling idiot, especially when he was trying to be a little bit wise towards Jane to try and get her to go against Peter Pan. I really liked the fact that they made him a little bit smarter. And I also really liked the fact that the whole concept of this story is exactly the reverse of what the original Peter Pan was, which was trying not to grow up so fast, and this story is about trying to prevent yourself from growing up too fast. Now, even that, a lot of people could say was a ripoff of the '91 live-action Hook film, but again, that's even more of a positive to me, because the fact that this Disney film used a little bit of the lore that Steven Spielberg gave us in Hook with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman. By the way, if you haven't seen that movie, Hook is a must for you. Even the 2003 Peter Pan film starring Jason Isaacs. But the fact that they take some of the mythos from those movies and weave them into the Disney movie just shows you how important and impactful movies like Hook and the live-action Peter Pan were. I love that. But one of the few things that I absolutely love about this movie is the ending, because it's one of those things that Disney fans and Peter Pan fans just wanted to see happen. And that was, what would Peter Pan do if he actually saw Wendy when she grew up? And Disney doesn't hold back. They give us that moment, and it's so simple, but so emotional, and you just smile, and you might even cry a little bit when you see this grown-up woman who was such a adorer of Peter Pan when she was a child/teenager, and to see the two of them just looking at each other face to face and just being happy at the end and just glad that they saw each other once again was just so heartwarming. There may be a couple of other things in this movie that some people just don't understand, especially the whole thing with the new creature that's after Captain Hook, which is an octopus, and we don't really know what happened to the crocodile. But at the end of this film, it's one of my personal favorites. I mean, I haven't watched it since I saw it in theaters. This was the first time I have, and I don't own it on DVD just because of the fact that I don't have the original Peter Pan. I just feel that it's not necessarily something that I need to have in my collection, but I really like this movie. It's so much better than people give it credit for. And if you did like the 1953 classic and you just are a Peter Pan fan, I think that Return to Neverland is a movie that you should give a try. I think you'll be very impressed. So that's it, everybody. That is my review of Return to Neverland. Please leave your comments in the box below. I'd love to talk to you about it, and I'm looking forward to when February officially begins, when we finally get back into the usual routine of Out of the Vault. And I'm telling you guys, we've got some really exciting new movies and classics to review. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.